Hello, everybody, and welcome to the last Plus 3 Futures and Commodities show of 2023. We are recording here on Saturday, December 30th. My name is Ben Maldonado, and as always, I'm here with Barry Hederachi. Barry, the year is done.
Year is done. And we're here.
Still here, and the year is done, and it ended on a momentous note, I would say. And you can see that from the chart that we have up. We're going to do a little different show today. We're going to review the E-mini because of the geometric perfection that we're seeing here at the end of the year. And then we're just going to kind of run through the monthlies to give you big picture view, because end of the year, looking it forward into 2024, everybody does big picture views, and the best way to do that is to look what's going on in the monthly. So we'll do a monthly in addition to an in-depth review on the ES. So with no further delays, let me turn it over to you, Barry, because that is a thing of geometric beauty there, 90 by 45.
Yes, and we don't get them every day.
No, sir.
Obviously, right?
No.
So you guys, just to wrap this up quickly, at least the ES part, we talked about this last week. You can catch the show. We spent a little bit of time on this, see what's happening here.
For the last 2 or 3 weeks, you've been talking about that. When we've been mentioning it,
because you saw it coming.
You saw it coming with the 90, and then you said the 45 is out like the end of December, and there we are.
And we looked at this 48.51 being the target, right? This area up here by the 90. And the 90 was really like 48,
42 or something like that.
40, right there. So anyway, the big deal here is, anytime in Gann analysis, we have a 2 by 1, 1 by 1 square hitting, any kind of a geometric proportion in a division of twos would be, we'd consider that to be a proper square. Right? But we can also go in thirds, so that's another one. And in this case, it's a 2 by 1, and the 2 being 2 parts of price to 1 part of time.
Correct.
Time being 45 and price being 90 degrees. So that's just the refresher for you guys. Now, what happens? So what happens when it squares? When it squares, it could definitely signal a change of trend, and it can also signal that that particular leg is finished, like it's done. Now it's something new is going to start. Probably, usually, if it's a bull market, it would square out and it will correct, and then we'll renew the move again. Or if it's just sort of markets just moving around, it could finish that up leg and it'll start at some kind of a down leg.
Right.
So that's the basic idea. Now, when it squares out, the big deal is as a very high probability, not just, very high probability that the leg might be over. And this came up, kind of quietly, not a lot of fanfare. It's sort of like, the market kind of went up, and it was very quiet for a couple of weeks. So I don't think there was a whole lot of news other than the normal chatter, right? So what do we do with this? Well, for us, we've been talking for the last couple of weeks, like Ben said, about lightening up the load. We don't want to be getting long up here close to the square, and if anything, we want to lighten it up, and that's really the key. And in the big picture, you would want to lighten up or actually exit, and then wait for the market to set up again above 48.40 if it's going to go up and do the next half of the square.
Right.
So that's the general idea. So what's happening now? Well, what's happening now is it came up perfectly up into the 29th and it reversed.
And it got a good reaction, which is also we like to see when those squares hit.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't like quietly didn't go to sleep. We can point to all kinds of reasons why it happened, but it happened. That's the main thing.
Yep.
And the thing that really happened was we broke the Gann angle. That was the 2 by 1 that was going up there. Now, what we're going to watch now is we want to see the lower high. We want to see what happens next. Do we just correct one day and go and make a new high? Well, great. If that happens, we wait for the setup. But right now, long as this high is in place, any lower high would signal a really good sell setup.
Absolutely.
That's really all it is.
And a lower high gets us stuck below the 90, which is the other thing we're looking at. We want to see, do we get stuck under that square?
And if you guys want to review what these lower highs we're talking about looks like, let's just go back. Can you see the whole screen there, Ben?
Yeah. Yep.
You can, right?
Yep.
So let's talk about lower highs. Here we had a false break.
Yeah.
So that's a sell, but not a lower high. But here's your lower high.
And then look at the reaction off of that.
And there is the sell off, right? So you want to catch
Mm-hmm.
those super low risk, and here's the reward. Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
here's another lower high. You know, we got the next lower high, and here's the
Yep.
reward. So once the trend gets moving, you just sell the reactions. And here's another high, here's a lower high. That's what we're looking for, and you sell that. There we go. It's all downhill from there. And here's another one. Here the lower high came a little really kind of lower, but we did have the inside day. That's another, that's another different kind of a setup. But here's a lower high. I'm just trying to show you guys what lower highs can look like. Well, here's another one, high. Here's a lower high, right? And sometimes they can come up and scare you, look a little double top kind of action, but
Yep.
here's a lower high
Mm-hmm.
and here's a reaction. And well, here's the high, up in July,
Mm-hmm.
inside day,
Mm-hmm.
little bit of a new high. Here's the high, but still the whole thing is inside, so it's a little bit tricky.
Yep.
But here's your basic reaction. If you go to the 4 hour, you'll see that, we made the high, came back, made the lower
high. Yeah.
Your sell off, right? And if you missed all that, you can wait for here or here, and you get the second shot at that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So going up, it was a very, very strong move. Look at the first pullback with this little shallow
triangle
consolidation. Yeah, a little triangle. Yeah. And here, really hardly any pullback, right? Very, very tight.
Mm-hmm.
And then we gapped, and this gap is sort of the premium gap, but even in the S&P cash, we'll look at in a second. Same thing happened. We blew right up into that. So normally a 45 is considered sort of a blow off move, and this did have a kind of blow offy kind of a character, except it really kind of ran out of juice.
Fizzled out.
Fizzled out, but it still got there, that's
it got there. Yes, it did. Like it was being pulled. That's what it looked like.
Right. So we're looking for a lower high. We think there's a very high probability a high is in place. That's where we're going to leave the ES. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about it a lot. I just want to look at the 30-minute really quick, just to get us back into sort of the frame. And here's the 30-minute chart. And we've been following this off of that low forever. Mm-hmm. And if we pull it up into where we are now, here's the old, the whole snooze fest around Christmas. We kind of crawled up here. This 48.18 was a key level we were watching, and we were bouncing right under it. Finally, we got on top of it. Here we held the 48.18, and then we had 48.48 being resistance, so he couldn't quite get there. Tried again, couldn't get there. And then here's a Friday break. So again, how funny how this 48.18 is in such play, right? So now it's the same thing. Can we settle above 48.18 or not?
Right.
And when we talked about higher low, lower high on the daily chart, well, that's sort of the official, if you're trading the daily chart, you have to wait for that daily chart. But if you're trading, lower time frames, you want to take a shot at the early setups, what we're looking for is to see if price can hold above 48.18 or not. And then looking for additional weakness. Obviously after we take 4,800, but 4,790 is sort of really the level right in here, this bracket. Mm-hmm. If this gets taken out, there's a really good chance. Early, we're talking 30-minute chart here, but still, there's it's another sort of check mark, right? We can check that box like, okay, we took out 4,790. That big thrust up is sort of fizzled out.
Yep. Something else is happening.
Something else is definitely happening. So that's for the 30-minute. Now you guys know the levels there. Let's take a look at the weekly. Weekly, we talked about this. Well, we have the 81 degrees up, and this whole thing's been 81. We've talked about it pretty much every week. Mm-hmm. And we did a full half square run up into this. Now we haven't taken out the steeper line, and
We're certainly going to test it next week.
which is a 4x1. Yeah. Well, we could certainly test it, but breaking that will tell us that there's a larger move in play, obviously, right? Just like, any other steep lines, like when we broke this line, when we broke this line,
Yep.
the same story. So here's another leg. It did sort of what, suggested amount of the move, and now, and it popped up just enough above it just to make that difference. So I think really the key is if the high of last week holds and we take out the low, right? Well,
Yeah.
there's, we kind of have a reversal in hand. And that's really it. I don't want to sort of belabor the point, but that's sort of the simplified version of it. Now, I just want to look at a couple of other things to confirm. Like sometimes, I mean, you're going to look at the Nasdaq, right, today?
Yep.
So I just want to show you guys. I mean, here's the Dow. Again, the only reason, it also happens to be 90 is because of the scaling, but it's the correct scaling. And we also went, not as tight as the ES, but we got right up into the
90 by 45
square, as you can see. And we just broke the trend line. So there we are. We're right there. So you can see the Dow is also squaring out. And here's the cash index. You can see we also got to 90 by 45. Yeah, it's just a little shy of 90, but it's close enough for this business. And I know the square is correct by looking at it. So, it's good enough. It got up there. So we have the Dow, we have the cash, and well, here's a little sort of secret square. What happened was I posted one earlier. What we're doing here is we're looking for matching sort of move, we're looking for symmetry. And initially I looked at this leg right there. See that? And I did the same square setup for that. And I thought, well, maybe we'll get there. And that was its 46.84. And usually that happens to work. And since we settled above it, I thought, well, where's the next leg? Well, next one's up here. So you can see that was an A, B, C, right? That was the entire leg. You can also do it in calculation with the first leg, or you can take the A, B, C, the entire move, and take that. So when we look at the geometry of that, look where we are. It's also it looks like a 90 by 45.
Yep.
But it's the same angle, that's what's crazy. And so there's some hidden geometry in there, and it just hit. And this has no relation to the charts we've been looking at, Ben. That's the funny thing.
Right. Yeah. And this is cash as well, right? This is cash. And this is cash.
This is the cash, yeah.
Cash,
I wanted to do the cash so that, we don't have any premium business injected into it. But it's just amazing how so basically it's half the length of this in price, in time.
In time, right.
Which is just amazing, and we got to the same price. So there is a resonance there. And this is geometry work, and we don't talk about this stuff too much because we're going to try to keep it all Gann related. So it's easier for everybody to stay on the same page. But I wanted to bring this up just to show, we have other evidence, other relationships, other geometries coming in. That's one. And what happened to the Hang Seng was, we did an A, B, C, D down, and we kind of completed something. And while the S&P, it was sort of inverse, right? While the S&P was running up, Hang Seng was running down. And we kind of finished off this move, and it's starting to sort of perk up a little bit. Not that it's a huge correlation, but hey, it's there, and might as well pay attention to it. So that's a big deal with the indices and the general stock market situation. Anything you want to add to that, Ben?
Just that when you see these 90 by 45s, you pay attention. I was basically taking this last week off, but I made a few comments on Friday when we hit this 90 by 45, and there was something like, oh, we knew you'd come back when the market tanked. And I said, when it's 90 when it's 90 by 45, you got to pay attention, because they're
somebody has to ring the bell.
Right. They don't happen that often, and when they do, they're generally significant.
Yeah, and it's definitely worth paying attention, because if let's just say, I mean, this is what the normal expectation would be for that leg to finish here. And we'll see, we'll anticipate what happens with the lower high if it sets up or inside day. But now we looked at all these different highs. You guys saw all the different, how it works out. So it's not something we've never seen. Now, the flip side of the coin, what happens, what's the other flip side? Flip side is we hold up, we somehow pop up above 48.50 and we settle above it, just like we settled above here.
Yep.
Just like we settled above the 50% line. Just like we settled above 43.70 here. So it's idea of, if we can settle above it, well, heck, we'll find the next level after that, but definitely we'll wait. Excuse me, we'll wait for that. So that's the, plan B. The obvious plan is
it doesn't mean there's going to be a crash, but it means you got to pay attention, because as you were saying, there's strong evidence that the last move ended there.
Yeah.
And now we have to figure out, based on price action, what's the next move? Is it a sharp move down? Is it a consolidation sideways? Is it just going to burn off time and chop around? We don't know yet.
Right. What we do know is we definitely want to manage our longs, right? So
absolutely, or be out of them, or be out of them. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So that's the first thing, and the second is, okay, let's see what sets up around the corner. So now we have all the levels. We know what to look for. You guys saw the 30-minute, so that's that. Maybe I know we're going to do the monthly show today. I'll just pop through here really quick, like 1 minute each. Is that okay, Ben?
That's fine, because bonds are significant on a monthly basis, which I'll show you.
Well, great, because we just did the 72-degree run up. That looks like it also squared out, but not a 1-to-1 square.
Yeah, it did. Looks like 5/5/8.
Yeah, it did on the this is
the third too.
Yeah, it's 2/3. So that is a significant square. So we have that in place. So I think that's it for bonds. I mean, it could have gotten up to this trend line, but the fact that we hit the 72 perfectly, and that's what we were looking for, it looks good. And
think about that, Barry. We had a great run in stocks and a great run in bonds, and they're both squaring out and hitting significant resistance.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. That's why you want to notice when everything's squaring out.
Yep.
And from different places, different rates, different, you definitely want to
different markets. Yeah.
Crude market, we basically, it's really 73.50 is what we want to get above or not. So here we just, we tried to get above, couldn't do it inside day. We took out the low. Now we're down 2 days. It's real, and we did square out here. So long as we can hold above, let's say 60, 68.
Yeah, we can get a higher low. That's the thing.
Get a higher low. That's right. That's right. And if this 50% is that strong, we take this out, then I think, the 64.75 area is the next stop, but we'll see. If this works out correctly, if I was looking at some of the energy stocks, oil stocks, if this looks like it's going to make a higher low and then move, because some of these stocks really broke out to the upside and they were just pulling back as a corrective pattern, not a termination. So I think this should make a higher low. So we'll continue to watch that. We have gold. Gold is, it's not giving it up. That's for sure.
It's not pulling back much.
Not pulling back. We're holding about the 2/3 of the square. It's doing okay. So, we can, without jumping into the weekly, I would say, long as we're holding above the 50% of the square, which is a square of 90, and the real level is 2006. Let's say, long as we hold about 2000, full square run up to, let's say 2200 is, it's not out of the cards. So
sure.
Let's see. The other thing to keep in mind, we were just, since we want to look at both sides, if this kind of terminated something, because we did have an ABCD going into it and pretty close to a square, this can be considered a lower high, right?
Right.
So because of that, that's why we're watching these levels. Watch 2000. We want to watch the 2/3, which is 2066. So we want to see, are we sort of giving it up here or not? Being a little cautious about it. So, the real trend line would be that to watch. If we break that, and still holding above 2000, then we can call it, well, it's just making a sort of a consolidation in a bull market, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we are moving higher. So we'll monitor it that way. And copper, I can't talk about copper without looking at the copper weekly. I got to jump to the weekly just for a second.
Okay.
Because look, you know, we had
Nice.
these we had this equal legs marked out. It's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
a reverse ABCD, right? And
Yep.
look, we got there in time. So time in here is equal to time here, and even in price. So we were looking at that as a target, and we got there.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, we'll have to
Watch it closely.
watch it closely. It didn't quite get to the larger frame here, larger ABCD.
Mm-hmm.
So because the other one terminated on a weekly basis, we have to sort of back off here and watch the trend line and come back to the 50% and say, as long as it's above 383, it's in a positive, in a sense of mean reverting here around the 50% line right there. We can say it's on a positive flip side, and we can continue. Actually, if you can hold about the 50% now, considering what the weekly did, copper is going to be in a very strong position, right? And if we take out the 50%, knowing what the weekly did, I think we can expect weaker prices ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But 383 is our balancing point there. Let's take a look at the dollar. Continued weakness. We were looking at this potential square at the 60 by 60. And the next square is really, we can get down to
72.
72. Let's see what happens here, because we did get down to 100. 100.5 was a key level that I had worked out from history. So we kind of held right above it. So that's something respectable. And we did manage to kind of at least eke into the zone. So now the point is, can we at least hold into the zone without getting sold out?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So we want to see if we can get above this 101, let's say 101 and a quarter. If we can hold above that, I think that's some sign of strength. But if we can't do 101 and a quarter, then I think there's more to come, and we'll have to let it play out. Euro, well, flip side of that, we have 72 square 72 here.
Mm-hmm.
We did pretty close to, get pretty close to the square.
Got close enough, yeah.
Did the 72. So, and it's backing off. We had a good pullback after reaching that level. It's possible it's done, but we don't have not like the S&P. We can't say, oh, it's right there, it's squared out, but it's something to watch. But I wouldn't be getting long in here until we can settle above, let's say at least 112. We talked about this 252, 120 degrees down gas. It's just right in there. Ever since we talked about it, it's been in there. It's like
it's winding up.
And the lows are holding. It looks like a big bottoming process. So we just have to give it the time it needs. Well, that's all I got. Let's get into the long-term stuff and look at the monthlies. And
this will be fun. Monthlies are good.
Yeah, monthlies are very good to do. So let me put it back to you. Hey, Ben, if we don't make a new high, you know what we have there? We have like the mother of all false breaks.
Yes. It would be a false break, and then we lose this full square. I mean, that to me, this is the key thing on this monthly here. You look at this full square, you're at, call it 47.72. If we get stuck back under that, then this becomes a false break and it opens up, the half square here at minimally, which is 43.61.
I mean, really, if you put, let's say the square 52, right? You're 260 degrees up. And that's pretty good. I mean, that's, 5 squares up. That's pretty good.
I mean, I had a square 51, but let's put 52 on.
Uh-huh.
Let's see what happens.
You won't see much at the bottom, but we definitely, I think it's in the pop down.
It's could be cooked, people. Now, the other thing you and I talked about when we were looking at a different pattern was, and it might have been ES or I forget what we were talking about, but here's one drive, 2 drives.
Yeah,
so let's say we get a sharp pullback here, but it gives us another higher low. We could do a third drive.
For sure. I mean, that would be the classic.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But the key thing is, you said you're 48.18 up top.
Uh-huh.
For me, it's if we go back to the square of 51, it's like around that 41.72.
Mm-hmm.
If we get stuck below that, that is trouble.
Yeah.
But we'll watch it. We'll watch it and see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we're
And that,
hitting perfectly in between. Look at the half square. So everything's singing.
mhm. And
Yeah.
so what I think this is the format we'll do. I'll just put up the monthly. Barry and I will talk about it. We'll point out the important levels and different things to look at. So we're going to try and run through all the commodities as well as NQ and Bitcoin. So let's get going.
That'll be fun.
So here's NQ, kind of similar story, right?
Mm-hmm.
We made a new high. We're now above this monthly level on the square here, which is around, call it 16,688.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be key, which was the old high, right? If we can stay above this high here, we're in good shape. If we lose it, then we got to say, okay, a correction's coming. And
Right.
a lot like, the ES, is the setup there for three drives. One, two, sharp pullback, and then another drive to a high that's terminal.
Well, if you can draw a line, normally it'll perfectly stand in line. If you connect those two highs, I mean, if this ends up becoming a high, right?
Let's see.
That would be the slope.
Something like this, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So if it's a high, let's see what happens next month.
Yeah, this next month is going to be very, very telling what
Mm.
what we do here. So that's the NQs. Nothing else remarkable here. The only other thing I'd say is, even going back to the ES, this entire thing is all this QE and MMT garbage.
Right.
Look at where it started,
Mm-hmm.
right in the middle of the great financial crisis, and this is the wave
That's
of
the pump.
that. That is the wave of that money. That's
Mhm.
exactly right. And is it coming to an end? That's the question.
I don't know. It looks like it's coming up for air. That last gasp kind of a look.
Hmm. Yeah, that's exactly right. And it fits with the cycles. It fits with the big picture. So let's see how it plays out.
Mhm.
Let's look at Bitcoin. There's the monthly. We haven't looked in this one in a while.
Mhm.
The interesting thing here is we're closed the month over this half square,
Mhm.
and the half square is around, call it 40,750.
Yeah. Yeah.
As long as we're above that, it's bullish. I mean, the good news is we got through all this overhead that was
Mhm.
here in this half square. The
Mhm.
bad news is now we've got all this overhead to deal with,
Yeah. Well,
over
bad
here.
news is also making a lower high potentially. So,
Yes. Yeah.
but you got to call it what it is. It's making higher lows. Let it go.
Yep. Higher lows, higher highs. So
Mhm.
uh
And where's that ABCD going?
let's
Is it
see
right
where
above us?
yeah,
If
let's
we
see where
go
that
from,
goes. Oh,
we blew through it. Okay. Okay.
so
All
that
right.
tells you how important this half square is now.
Yeah, it's definitely important.
If we get back below the ABCD, then something did end there, and this is the excess that usually
Right.
happens,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So we'll see what happens with that. Let's start running through the other ones. Here's bonds. I talked about bonds, right? That it was at a critical spot on the monthly.
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
There you go. We both have it coming up at different squares, different
That's
places.
different squares, different places. And remember, again, I keep this on there. This is a 40-year trend line that we broke.
Yeah. Yeah.
And look at those equal moves, man. Bonds are really harmonic. You had
Yeah.
that
That's very
move,
good.
and you
Yeah.
had that move, and then we got the reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So we basically got 2 months up right into full square resistance. If we can't get above that full square and we take out the lows of December,
Where's
watch
that
out.
118 for you?
Let's see, 118 right in here.
Right there. Okay.
Mhm.
So my level is for the long term is that, if we can hold about 118 or not. So,
And it fits the low of this bars around 116, 117.
mm-hmm.
So that would be a monthly reversal, and that would mean the downtrend started again. So this is key, right? 126.10. 120, 126 and a half area. As long as we're below that, we're in a vulnerable spot.
And you know what? The bonds have been doing a lot of two-bar counter trends. If you look at
yeah,
2021,
no, you're right. You're
know,
right.
inside bar, then one,
Two
two
bars.
up. No, the other
Yep.
one, yeah, right there.
Mm-hmm.
And he's right under the square, right?
1, 2. Yep.
And then back again, right under the square, 2 bars in 22, right?
Right
Yeah,
here.
right there. Yep.
Yep. Yep.
So here we are, 2 bars again, right under the square. So
It's a pattern for sure. Let's see. It's a significant spot. And again, if the rally in equities was caused by the relief from bonds going up and rates going down, if that reverses, our equity is going to be able to stand it. We'll see. These things are all related. Money flows. So we'll see. Let's look at the grains. Here's wheat.
whoop, whoop.
The thing that's interesting to me about wheat is we've had this pretty steep correction, but look where we stopped. Right on top of all this.
Yeah.
So, and now we have an up bar. We had down bar. We had 2 months of inside price action, which is interesting at the low. And then we have this up bar and we're above the half square. As long as we stay above this half square, I mean, it's bullish, right?
Yep.
Because we're above all this price action from 2015 to 2000, basically middle of 2020. And it would give us a higher low. And if you go back and you look at how this thing goes, right? You get the thrust, you get a pullback with a higher low, and then you get these monster moves.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be surprised if we're setting up for another launch here. As long as we have this higher low in place, as long as we stay above the half square, and then we just got to start capturing territory, like capture here, and then we can really get going. But I like the structure there. Anything else? Any other comments here on wheat?
Well, Ben, I called the low, so I'm
Yes, you
standing by
did.
that.
And it looks good on a monthly basis, doesn't it?
So far, so good. But my level on a monthly, weekly level is 650. I think it's really critical that we get above that.
Right in here. Right
yeah,
here.
we're right there. Now, if we can somehow settle above it, I think settling about 650 will get the motor running, so to speak. We've been kind of crawling and chugging up here, but I think 650 is key. Your half square, great. If we can hold above that, then if we can take out 650, it's basically your 5/8, right? So
yeah, that's 5/8. Yep. So it looks good.
Yeah.
Look, let's see how it plays out. Next, we got corn. Corn, as you can see from the monthlies, we've been going sideways for almost 6 months now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months. 5 months of essentially inside bars. We had this, I think this ticked a little bit lower, like a false break, but that's sideways action. And again, look what it's sitting on top of. Look left. Price action from 2014 to 2020. Longer term, it's bullish. We need to see some upward movement here, though. I'd like to see this level here get taken out, take out these highs here, like around 510, 512.
Or just have it come and flush it, be done with it into the
or flush it
around.
Yeah. But right now, and this is the congestion we're seeing on the daily and the shorter time frames. You can see it here on the monthly. We just got to let that go and let it play out. Let's check out beans.
Hey, one quick thing on corn.
Yeah, want me to go back?
Yeah, just really quick. If you take from the high and you take the first counter trend on, right there, if you draw that ABCD out, that could be a really good target because there's support around 400 to 450, and that target comes in at 440 something, right at your half square. So it's
right
kind
here.
of
It is a good flush target.
Yeah, it's a perfect flush target. So it's something to watch.
And if you've been following the shows, I haven't been talking much about corn because it's just in chop. So we'll let it play out. It either needs to break out, or like Barry said, maybe it's going to go down and flush and complete this ABCD here, again, that'll still be sitting on top of all that price action for
And you
6
half
years
square. Yeah.
and the half square. Yeah. So we let it play out. Let it
Mhm.
play out. Let's go to beans. Beans are interesting in that if you, of all three grains, it's had the most shallow correction of them all.
Mhm.
It's basically been a square, instead of multiple
Also, it
squares.
didn't sell off as hard as some of the other ones. So
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I mean. This correction has been relatively shallow.
right.
We're
Oh
try,
yeah.
we're
Mhm.
trying to work out. Watch for these trend line breaks on these commodities, because when you get these steep trend line breaks, like look what happened on this one. I didn't draw it in, but I just noticed them. When they break, it's when you get these big moves, right?
Yeah.
You break these trend lines.
I hate trading beans because if you miss that break, boy, you end up chasing it. It's
Yeah,
just
it's true. You gotta be on it. But these are good. So we know we're in the neighborhood here. This next monthly bar is going to be here. So where's the trend line? Around 1390,
mhm.
1380, 1390 area. If we break out there, then the move could be starting. Anything else on beans?
No, it's just that yeah, it's not quite. It feels like it's not quite there. We just have to wait and see what happens with this higher low if it comes in as that. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't have. I mean, really, the only out of the three main grains, wheat's really the only one that I can at least pin something on. Everything else doesn't seem like it's finished yet.
It's not quite ready. Yeah.
Yeah, not quite. So it's kind of strange. We'll see.
Yeah. The thing to notice about this one and the others is they're all sitting on top of the multi-year
Yeah,
consolidation
that's right.
that we saw from like
Mhm.
2013 to 2020. All of them,
It's
all
not
the
like the
corrections.
inflation's cooling off, it's just kind
No,
of taking a breather here.
it's definitely a breather, waiting for the next wave. All right, let's go to the softs now. We'll start with sugar. Boy, that's an ugly monthly bar if you were long, huh? So here's what happens when you complete an ABC into into a an important square, the half square.
Mhm.
And we called this out using the dailies that sugar was vulnerable. It's
In
had a
real time.
correction in real time. And you can go back and check the shows if you don't believe us. Anyway, the um the thing to look here is this looks done for now. It's finding support where it should, which is in this previous consolidation area. Now it's time to see, what's it going to do next? Are we going to come up and make a lower high and then get an even bigger move down that's going to come in and test these lows here?
Uh-huh.
Or are we going to be able to put in a low and then work our way up to challenge these all-time highs? But for now, we called something ending there. We know now that what's going on here. Now we got to see what comes next after this.
Yep.
Anything to add on sugar?
No, you did a good job. That's really what we have to watch. Yeah.
Okay, that's sugar.
I mean, I think the ABCD completion was like the big takeaway there,
He-
right? See what
right.
happens.
Hello, pay attention.
That's right. I mean, that's why we
That-
track them. You see what happened there?
Absolutely. It is this is the reason we track them. And I always tell people, when they hit, you got to watch.
Hmm.
I call them the beauties. You got to admire beauty, and this is beauty when it happens in the markets.
Yep.
That is the lesson there. ABCDs are meaningful. This is one that we've been tracking for a while, and as you can see on a monthly basis, it's just sideways. We got to let this thing break, because when it breaks, we should get a good move. I mean, essentially, we've been going sideways for over a year now. When did we
Right.
start
Hmm.
this? October of 22. Yeah, 15 months now.
Hmm.
It has a way of doing that, but let's go back and look at history. What happens when it does it? That's a multi-year one, right?
Right.
You get a move out, you usually get some sort of clean out move back, and then the huge move comes. So we got to be aware of that in cotton here. But until it breaks either side, there's nothing to do. We really, what would be ideal would be see a sort of a clean out move lower, take that low out, come down here, hold the half square, and then reverse.
Well, you can see how often it runs and how often it rests. So I think we just have to wait for the first sign of movement and then get involved. And there's no reason to jump in early and do all the kinds of, you know,
Not in commodities, because when they run, they run. I
Yep.
mean, look at the runs. Remember, these are monthly bars. This is a 2.5 year run when they go. Here's, see how when they're triangulating,
Mhm.
they build up all this energy and then they go. So
And
we
there's no
wait.
hurry because, it runs for months.
That's right. We wait. We wait for it to give us the sign. Let's go to the next one. The next one's an interesting one too, because it's a lot like sugar.
Hmm.
I think this is pretty significant here. What we're going to have to watch and see is, what does this next pullback look like? If we stay on top of here, on top of this half square around 38, 34, then it's going to be super bullish, because then we're sitting on top of all that. It could even come down to here and still be super bullish. But I do think something ended here. I believe I got an 81 by 81 square up here.
We know how good that is.
Yep. So that is something to pay particular attention to if you're long cocoa, or if you were thinking about it. This is not the place to go long. We have to watch and see what sets up now, but it may be setting up a monster short. We'll have to see
Hmm.
how price action goes the next.
Well, I mean, it broke into new highs just like we were talking about. So now it's just we're trying to kind of assess the pullback, right? Counter trend.
We're going to assess the counter trend, and we're going
Mhm.
to see what what is coming now. Like, we believe this move has ended. Now
Mhm.
what comes next?
Right.
The other thing to notice on this chart, this was a monthly triangle, right? Look at this sideways for years.
Mhm.
Look what happens when you actually break out of it.
Right.
This is why we watch commodities, why we pay attention when it's doing this, because we want to, as quickly as possible when it breaks out, be able to get involved and capture some of this, because the moves coming out of these, multi-year consolidations are fantastic. They're just powerful. And so this is sort of a preview of what cotton's going to do when it's ready. And what's our job is to keep watching it and look for signs that it's starting. Right? We don't have to predict, we don't have to anticipate. We just have to wait for the signs and be able to read them.
We're up 135 degrees from that low.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a significant square.
Yeah.
And we're squaring. So
It's a lot like ES, right? We're up into a region where something is ending.
well,
And
it's 67, it's 68 weeks, let's say 67 and a half weeks, 67
Mhm.
weeks,
Right.
high 135. So that's a 2 by 1. And
That's a good
yeah,
square.
that's a square. We got to really watch it close here.
Yep. Yeah. So that's cocoa. Anything else to add?
No, that's it. I mean, we just called the high in cocoa. But
Pretty much. That's it. The high, I do think the high in cocoa is in. Now it's a question of if we get a setup to short it.
probably shouldn't get so cocky, but all right.
It is what it is. Now
Yeah.
here's one. Here's one that is sort of the inverse of sugar and cocoa, right?
Hmm.
Coffee is, I believe, the low is in coffee, and we are breaking out now. Uh, Monthly it confirms that. And if you look back how cocoa moves, I mean, how coffee moves out of these things, it moves in these waves, right? You get your first push up, pull back, another push up, higher, low, and then you get your peak. Well, if we take this as the low, we had one, two, setting up. If this low holds, which is in a beautiful place, as you can see, this
Hmm.
low holds and we break out, we're in the next phase up. And it could be this type of move, right? Because if you have one, two, and then here's three, here we've gotten one, two, and here's three.
Right.
So it, as they always do, right? We were out and we looked like we were ready to go, and then the last few days they sold it off right to the trend line.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we got to watch this as this new month starts printing. We got to see, can we get above this? Getting above this half square to me is the key, right? Around, call it 200, 199, 200. We settle above that, then I think we're on the way to this type of move here. This type of really fast move. But I mean, look at the geometry, Barry. It's perfect, right? The high's right on the full square, comes down to the half square, breaks that, comes down to the full square, holds it, pushes up. Structurally, we're sitting on top of, again, this multi-year consolidation and correction that we saw.
No, pattern's good. Everything's good.
Yeah. Anything else to add? Any squares or anything else you've seen here on this one?
I mean, I think I don't know where your 178 comes in. That's my key level. Long as we're holding above that, I think long-term picture is pretty good.
178's right here.
170, yeah, a little lower.
So they're like the low of this month.
Yeah.
Of December.
So it's 178. It's actually right close to your quarter line, I think.
Yeah. Yep. It's right in there.
Yep, that's it. And we did break the trend line, so that's something to note.
Yes, it is. And when these commodities break trend lines, good things usually happen. So we watch coffee to see how that goes. All right, let's go to gold, which Barry talked about. But look at gold on the monthly and look at that close. It's pretty bullish.
Yeah, especially because that consolidation was super tight, right?
Yep. Here's your half square. Your half square on the monthly is 2056. We closed at 2071. As long as we stay above that, it's full square. 2300.
Yeah.
2312 is the next major resistance. And again, if you look left, and you and I talked about this a lot when you were looking at the weeklies, right? All this huge consolidation is sitting on top of the highs from 2011, 2012. All on top of that. I mean, just a very bullish chart. Where would we say there's trouble monthly basis? If we got below 1800, then something else is going on. But I mean, as long as we're above this half square and sort of above these highs here, it's just waiting to explode. And it's been since 2020, like a 3-year, almost 3.5-year consolidation here. That's building up energy. Anything to add on the monthly on gold?
It looks good. My level's even a little higher. I think anything above 1900 is really good, given how gold trades. So yeah, we're good.
Gold is
it's in a trend. It's trending up.
Yep. And here's one that's consolidating, right? This is lagging gold a little bit, but man, to me, this looks like the cocoa chart where it was just, triangulating and building up energy here while it's getting ready for this next blast. Break out of the triangle, and the added bonus is if we break out of the triangle in a bullish manner, we're also breaking above a full square, which is around 2667. You break out above that, then the next level is up here in the half square, which is around 3790. And look left, Barry. Look where most of this has been.
Exactly. Quietly positive.
And that's the pattern. You can see that pattern in almost all these commodities that they've corrected sharply or they've been going sideways, but they're doing it above, 5, 6, 7, 10 years of price action that came before it. They're doing it on top of that. And that in structural, technical analysis, that's like perfect bullish structure. Your lows are sitting on top of previous highs. Anything to add on silver? Key level here is right there, 2667.
And to the downside, if we can hold above, let's say 22 and a half.
22 and a half.
Yeah, a little tight, but
it's going to be right. Yeah, it's in here. It's in the middle of this
it really
triangle.
has to do that. If we can do that, I think maybe you can get down to 22. That's give a little room. Silver being silver, so right in there.
Yeah.
You can hold.
So basically the bottom of the triangle.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the last metal, copper. So copper on a monthly basis looks pretty good. And I think we're going to have the same key number here. What did you say? 381 or 383 was your number, right?
Yep.
381. It's a half square.
383.
Yeah, mine's 381 right here.
Yeah, it's right
half
there.
Square.
Yep.
So why is copper interesting? We're in this big triangle, right? We've broken out of the triangle. And now we're above, we cut a monthly close above that half square, 381, which, fits with Barry's number of 383. As long as we could stay above that, this thing can push on a monthly basis to like 440, 442.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's there. If we get below 381, then we got to reassess and say, hey, maybe this isn't so bullish. But again, look at the formation here and look what we're above. All this price action from 2014 to 2020. Price has not been able to come below that, right? We plunged in late, what was that, July of 22? And look where the lows were, right on top of this, right in here. Everything's pointing towards, I don't know, it's imminent like this month in January, but there is another leg up in commodities coming. Unless this support that it's been sitting on these lows gives way, there's going to be pressure to the upside. And we're seeing it not just in the grains, not just in the softs, not just in the metals, across the board. They're showing this kind of structure where the lows of these corrections and these pullbacks have been on where the highs were from anywhere from 2010 to 2020. And that's the theme that you see when you review these charts. Anything else to add on copper?
Just my lower range, it would be like 370. I think long as we can hold about 370, it's still in a very good bullish position.
Right. That's right around this 3/8.
Yep. That's a good spot.
Yep. All right, let's jump over to the last two, which are crude oil. Now, here's an interesting thing with crude. We broke this pretty steep trend line with this latest monthly bar. And as you talked about, Barry, the key was you were talking about 64, right? 64.50, I think you said. Here it's 64.32. As long as we stay above that, we're in good shape. But if we lose that, there could be a rout in crude. And notice that we got stopped here, which was 90, a little over 90, call it 90.50 on the rally attempts. So right now we got to hold above 64.32. And if we can take out this past month's high, which was, what was the high this past month? Let's see. December's high was 76.76. If we take that out, we could reverse up with a higher low off of this, the support that we found. But it's in a position where it could go either way if you're looking at the monthly. Now, again, we're sitting on top of the price action from 2014, 2015 through 2020. So as long as we're above this, we still have bullish support that we can launch off of. But if we lose that, there's big trouble in the oil world. Anything else to add on a monthly basis here?
No, I think that square is really the key. As long as we can hold above that, we're in pretty good shape and ready to pounce. So I think we should keep that in mind.
That's right.
No.
All right, let's go to the last one. Our old friend.
But I'll tell you one other thing, though. We really do want to get above that 70.
76?
Yep. We want to get above that sooner than later.
I agree. It's because there's pressure. This one is, Natty's interesting in that I was just looking back at a pattern to see if there's some sort of pattern that's possibly
really
repeating.
quick. I'm sorry. On the crude, I meant 73.50. We need to get above that.
73.50. Okay. Yeah.
Wait, natural gas.
Natural gas. One thing I noticed here is we broke the steep downtrend line, which is always good, right? Whenever it does that, good things happen. You can see here multiple times. Going back and looking into the 90s and 2000s, how this thing went, off of lows, off of major lows, you had one push, you had a higher low. You had a second push, you had a higher low. And then you had the third push. And then things, went to hell in a handbasket, right? You got lower highs and lower lows. Well, here's your first lower low, right? The lowest low. Got to push up, pull back, modest push up, pull back, pull back. Bigger push up, pull back, higher low, pull back, higher low. We can put in this higher low in reverse. This could be next. The key is, do we get that higher low? Right now we have, and it looks like it's trying to build the structure to get out of here, like it did here. You had the low, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. That's what we got to start seeing. So far, we've got the low, we've got a high. We want to see a higher low, and then take this out for the higher high, and then we can get going. But just keep that in mind about how nat gas does these moves off of major lows. Anything to add here?
No, I think that level wise and pattern wise, we're good. We broke the pattern, but just remember, natural gas can go sideways for
For
a
years.
while. So we just have to really, I mean, the reason we cover it every week is waiting for that break to happen. Then it's worthwhile and the risk reward is there to trade it.
Mm-hmm.
So for now, I think it's just being patient while it's putting this low in place. I think that's really my only comment.
Right. And I think that's the world of commodities from the monthly charts. The message again is that don't know that a third wave or the next wave in these commodity in the bullish wave in these commodities is imminent, but we do know it's coming. I mean, based on the structure, it's telling us odds are it's coming. Now, could that change? Of course. If price action dictates it, we'll change our outlook. But right now, very bullish on the commodities. You pointed out a few where, the bullishness is not so much there, that we're more at highs, that being sugar and cocoa. But others are set up like wheat, coffee. They're set up in a position, gold from a monthly basis. They're set up in a very bullish position, and the key is to watch these levels. Watch when price reaches a level that gives us, a higher probability that we're going to get that fast move. Anything else to add, Barry? Just wrapping it up.
No, we're good. I think we caught natural gas pretty well, covered it pretty well. So,
okay. Listen, everybody, have a terrific New Year's holiday. We appreciate your support. Please, like, ring the bell, subscribe, do all those sort of things that YouTube wants you to do. And we appreciate you, and we'll continue doing these videos and hopefully helping people navigate these markets. Happy New Year, Barry. Hope everybody has a good New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Let's make it a good year. It wouldn't be a sleeper year, I can tell you that.
No,
So it'll be action packed. Get your rest over the long weekend
and be ready to go.
It's going to be here before we know it. So,
right.
And Ben, thanks for everything. Great job every week, and it's been fun. So
we'll talk soon.
Yep. Take care. Thanks.
Take care. Bye-bye.